100 Hidden Signs of High Intelligence. Some of the most intelligent people never realize how intelligent they are. Not because they lack intelligence, but because their intelligence doesn't look like what society expects. In this video, I'll reveal 100 hidden signs of high intelligence. Many of them feel ordinary, some feel uncomfortable, and a few may explain why you've always felt different. Stay until the end, because the strongest signs are the ones almost everyone misses. As you listen, don't try to count how many signs apply to you. Just notice which ones feel familiar. Because intelligence isn't measured by numbers. It's revealed through patterns. Before we begin, I need to tell you something important. If you've ever felt like you don't fit in, if you've questioned whether you're actually intelligent, if people have told you you're too sensitive, or overthink everything, this video might explain why. Real intelligence doesn't show up on report cards or IQ tests. It shows up in how you think when no one's watching, in what you notice that others miss, in the questions you ask that others don't think to ask. Over the next 2 hours, we're going to explore 100 signs across 5 domains. How you think, how you learn, how you feel, how you create, and how you understand yourself. You won't relate to all of them. No one does. Intelligence is diverse. But if several of these resonate deeply, it means something. One more thing. Many of these signs are uncomfortable. They don't feel like strengths. They feel like flaws, quirks, or problems. That's intentional. Real intelligence often doesn't feel special to the person experiencing it. It just feels normal. Sometimes it feels like a burden. So if you've been doubting yourself, this might be the video that changes how you see yourself. Let's begin. Part 1. The Thinking Patterns. The first signs often appear in childhood. The first few signs often showed up early in your life. Maybe you didn't notice them. Maybe others did. You questioned authority, not to be difficult, but because I said so never satisfied you. You needed to understand why rules existed, why things worked the way they did. Teachers might have found you challenging. Your parents might have been frustrated, but your brain was already doing what intelligent brains do, seeking underlying principles instead of accepting surface-level answers. You felt different from other kids, not in an obvious way. You could make friends. You could fit in when you needed to. But internally, you always felt like you were performing a role. Like everyone else got a manual for how to be a kid, and you had to figure it out through observation. This sense of being an outsider looking in, it's not social dysfunction. It's pattern recognition developing early. You taught yourself things obsessively. Once something captured your interest, you dove deep. You didn't just want to know about dinosaurs, you memorized every species. You didn't just play an instrument, you deconstructed how music theory worked. This capacity for deep, self-directed learning is a hallmark of high intelligence that often gets mislabeled as obsession or hyperfixation. You had imaginary worlds with complex rules. Your make-believe wasn't simple. You created entire systems, economies, languages, governments, mythologies. You were building mental models and testing them through play. This is advanced abstract thinking disguised as childhood imagination. If you're recognizing yourself in these early signs, the next group will feel even stronger. How your mind processes differently. These next signs are about what happens inside your mind when you're thinking. Most people don't notice these processes because they're so automatic. But if you've ever wondered why you think differently than others, you think about thinking. Right now, you might be aware of yourself listening to this video, analyzing whether you agree, noticing your own reactions. This is metacognition, thinking about your own thought processes. Most people think. Highly intelligent people watch themselves think. They're aware of their mental operations in real time. Your brain never fully turns off. Even when you're trying to relax, part of your mind is still processing. You're solving problems in the shower, making connections while falling asleep. Your friends can sit and not think about anything, but you can't. This isn't insomnia or anxiety, it's a cognitive engine that runs at a naturally higher baseline. You see patterns everywhere. In conversations, You notice when someone's current behavior mirrors something they did last month. In news articles, you recognize historical parallels. In nature, you spot mathematical sequences. Your brain is constantly organizing information into meaningful structures, even when you're not trying. You can hold contradictory ideas without discomfort. Two seemingly opposite things can both be true, and this doesn't bother you. You understand that context determines truth. That nuance matters. That reality is complex. This cognitive flexibility frustrates people who need absolute answers, but it allows you to navigate ambiguity that paralyzes others. You think in systems, not isolated events. When someone proposes a solution, you immediately see ripple effects. Change one variable, and 12 others shift. You naturally think in terms of interconnected networks rather than linear cause and effect. This is why simple questions sometimes require complex answers from you, because simple answers would be incomplete. Many people stop listening here because these signs feel normal to them. But the next signs are where intelligence becomes invisible. The signs that look like overthinking. These next signs are the ones that make intelligent people doubt themselves, because they don't look like intelligence. They look like problems. You mentally rehearse conversations before they happen. Before an important discussion, you play out different scenarios, how they might respond, what you'll say back, different emotional tones, possible outcomes. People tell you to just be spontaneous, but your brain is running simulations to prepare for complex social navigation. That's not anxiety. That's advanced planning. You struggle to just relax. When others are watching TV mindlessly, you're analyzing the plot structure. When you're supposed to be enjoying vacation, you're thinking about work problems or philosophical questions. People say you overthink, but what they call overthinking is actually your mind engaging deeply with everything it encounters. You notice small details that bother you. That person used literally incorrectly. There's a logical inconsistency in that argument. The pattern on the wallpaper doesn't align properly. Others think you're nitpicky. But you're not trying to be difficult. Your brain automatically processes information at a granular level. And errors create cognitive dissonance. You have trouble making simple decisions. Choosing a restaurant becomes an analysis of 15 variables: food quality, ambience, price, location, dietary restrictions, future regret probability. Others pick quickly and move on. You see all the implications and second-order effects. It's not indecisiveness, it's seeing more variables than others see. You often feel like you're too much, too intense, too deep, too serious, too analytical. People tell you to lighten up or not take things so seriously. But you're not trying to be heavy, you just naturally think at depths that feel normal to you but overwhelming to others. If several of these felt familiar, you're beginning to see something important. You weren't broken, you were just wired differently. The learning signs most people miss. Let's talk about how you learn. Because highly intelligent people learn differently, and they often don't realize it's different. You learn through understanding principles, not memorization. Give you the underlying logic of something, and you can reconstruct the details. But ask you to memorize without understanding, and you struggle. You're not bad at memory, you're designed for comprehension over rote learning. You make unusual connections between unrelated fields. A business strategy reminds you of an immune system response. A relationship dynamic mirrors thermodynamics. Your friends think you're being weird, but you're doing what Einstein called combinatory play, linking distant concepts to create new insights. You ask why until others get frustrated. You don't just want to know what happened. You want to understand the mechanism, the root cause, the underlying principle. People eventually say that's just how it is, but that answer never satisfies you because your mind is built for deep causal understanding. You can explain complex topics simply, but people rarely ask you to. You've developed the ability to translate difficult concepts into accessible language because you understand them deeply. But others often don't recognize this skill, so you rarely get to demonstrate it. You learn from sources others dismiss: a throwaway comment in a conversation, a background detail in a documentary, a pattern in seemingly random data. Your mind extracts signal from noise that others overlook. These learning patterns aren't taught in school, which is why many highly intelligent people struggled in traditional education. The system wasn't designed for how your mind works. The next signs explain why intelligent people often feel isolated. The social intelligence patterns. Intelligence isn't just cognitive. It's also about how you read people, situations, and unspoken dynamics. These signs are subtle, but they reveal a different kind of intelligence. You read between the lines constantly. Someone says they're fine, and you hear the stress in their voice. You notice the pause before they answered, the slight shift in their posture. You're processing multiple layers of communication simultaneously: words, tone, body language, context, history. Others hear what's said. You hear what's meant. You adapt your communication style to different people. You speak one way with your analytical colleague, another way with your emotional friend, another way with your skeptical parent. This isn't being fake, it's having sophisticated theory of mind. You understand that effective communication requires meeting people where they are. You can feel the energy in a room immediately. You walk into a space and sense tension, excitement, awkwardness, warmth. You pick up on micro-expressions and group dynamics that others miss. This isn't mystical, it's reading hundreds of subtle social cues simultaneously. You know what people need to hear, even when it's not what they asked for. Your friend asks if their art is good, but what they really need is encouragement, not critique. You understand the question beneath the question. This requires both empathy and analysis operating together. You feel emotions deeply but can also observe them. When you're angry, part of you is watching the anger. When you're sad, you're simultaneously experiencing sadness and analyzing why you're sad. This dual processing of emotions is emotionally intelligent and cognitively sophisticated. Most people experience either thinking or feeling. You experience both simultaneously, and that's exhausting, but it's also powerful. Up to this point, many people realize something important. They weren't broken. They weren't weird. They weren't too sensitive or too analytical or too different. They were just intelligent in ways that don't fit into neat categories. The signs we've covered so far are the ones that show up in daily life, the ones you might have noticed before. But the next group, these are the signs that live in the quiet moments, the private experiences, the parts of intelligence that only you see. Part 2, the hidden patterns. The signs that only show up when you're alone. These next signs are the ones you might never talk about, not because they're shameful, but because they feel too personal, too strange, too hard to explain. You have entire conversations in your head, not just rehearsing, full debates with yourself, playing devil's advocate to your own arguments, exploring multiple perspectives on a question before you've even discussed it with anyone else. This isn't talking to yourself. It's using internal dialogue to test ideas rigorously. You create elaborate hypothetical scenarios for fun. What would happen if everyone suddenly became telepathic? How would society restructure if we didn't need sleep? You're not planning for these scenarios. You're exercising your mind through thought experiments. Einstein did this. It's how breakthrough thinking happens. You feel like you're performing a character in social situations. There's the you that people see, and then there's the internal you observing everything. You're managing your presentation while simultaneously analyzing the interaction. This splitting of awareness isn't dissociation, it's metasocial awareness. You need time alone to process your experiences. After social interaction, you need solitude to decompress. Not because people drain you, but because your mind collected so much data during the interaction that it needs time to process it all. You're running the social interaction again in your mind, extracting patterns and insights. You have interests you don't share with anyone, topics you research deeply but never mention, rabbit holes you go down that would seem obsessive to others. This isn't shame, it's recognizing that most people won't understand the depth of your fascination. If you're feeling seen right now, hold on to that feeling. Because what you're experiencing isn't loneliness. It's the rare recognition of someone else who thinks like you do. The uncomfortable intelligence signs. Let's talk about the signs that don't feel like gifts, the ones that make you wish your brain worked differently. You see potential problems before they happen, and no one believes you. You warned them the project would fail for specific reasons. You predicted the relationship wouldn't work. You saw the flaws in the plan. And then everything unfolded exactly as you anticipated. But instead of validation, you feel frustrated because prevention would have been better than prediction. You're bored by conversations most people enjoy. Small talk feels suffocating. Surface-level discussions feel pointless. You're not being arrogant, you're genuinely understimulated by conversational exchanges that don't go deeper. And this makes you feel isolated. You question your own intelligence constantly. The more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. The Dunning-Kruger effect means less competent people overestimate themselves, while highly competent people underestimate themselves. Your self-doubt is actually evidence of accurate self-assessment. You feel like you're wasting your potential. No matter what you accomplish, there's a voice saying you should be doing more, learning more, creating more, contributing more. This isn't personal failure, it's high cognitive ability creating high internal standards. You struggle to find intellectual peers, not because you think you're better than others, but because most conversations don't reach the depth you naturally operate at. You learn to code switch, to dial it down, to hide how much you're thinking. These signs hurt. They make intelligence feel like a burden instead of a gift. And here's what I want you to understand. That burden is real. You're not imagining it. High intelligence comes with real challenges that people with average intelligence don't experience. But it also comes with capabilities they don't have. Most people stop listening here, but the next signs are where intelligence becomes truly invisible. Because we're about to talk about the signs that contradict what people think intelligence looks like. The messy signs, the chaotic signs, the signs that made teachers tell you that you weren't living up to your potential. The signs that look like failure. These are the signs that make intelligent people feel like frauds. You're disorganized in some areas while hyper-focused in others. Your workspace is chaos, but your mind is ordered. Your schedule is a mess, but your project planning is detailed. People mistake the external disorder for internal disorder. They don't see that your mind is allocating resources to what matters intellectually, not what looks good socially. You start many projects but finish few, not because you lack discipline, but because once you've solved the interesting problem mentally, executing it becomes less compelling. The cognitive challenge was in the conceptual phase. Implementation is just detail work. You underperform in structured environments. School, traditional jobs, rigid systems, you struggled in places where others thrived. Not because you're less capable, but because your intelligence needs autonomy and complexity. Put you in an environment that rewards creative problem-solving over rule-following, and you excel. You procrastinate until the deadline, then produce excellent work. People think you're lazy or disorganized, but you're actually using deadline pressure to create the optimal cognitive state. Your brain needs that urgency to achieve peak focus. It's not poor time management, it's unconscious optimization. You have seemingly random knowledge gaps. You understand quantum mechanics, but can't remember your own phone number. You can analyze complex social dynamics, but forget people's names. Your brain prioritizes conceptual understanding over factual memorization. This looks like inconsistency, but it's actually specialized cognitive allocation. What teachers called not applying yourself was often your intelligence refusing to waste energy on tasks that didn't challenge it. What people call scattered is often your mind processing multiple complex ideas simultaneously. What looks like failure is often intelligence constrained by systems designed for different minds. The creative intelligence signs. Let's shift to what your mind creates when it's free to operate naturally. You combine ideas that seem unrelated. You're watching a nature documentary and suddenly understand how to solve a work problem. You're reading philosophy and get insights about software architecture. Your mind makes leaps across domains that others can't follow. This is creativity in its purest form. You think in analogies and metaphors naturally. You don't just use them to communicate, you think with them. You understand new concepts by mapping them onto familiar structures. This analogical thinking is how humans make conceptual breakthroughs. You can improvise effectively. When plans collapse, you quickly generate alternatives. You're comfortable operating without a script because your mind can synthesize new solutions in real time. This adaptive intelligence is rare and valuable. You see multiple solutions where others see one. That problem everyone thinks has only one answer. You see 6 approaches, each with different trade-offs. This isn't indecision, it's cognitive flexibility that refuses to oversimplify complex problems. You create complex systems for fun. Maybe you design elaborate spreadsheets no one asked for. Maybe you create workflows for processes no one else thinks about. You're not being extra, you're expressing intelligence through systematic organization. This creative intelligence doesn't always look productive in traditional ways. It looks like daydreaming, like playing, like wasting time. But some of humanity's greatest innovations came from exactly this kind of cognitive play. We're now at the point where most people who aren't truly engaged have clicked away. If you're still here, it's because something in this video is speaking directly to your experience. The final third is about the deepest patterns, the ones that shape your entire experience of being alive. These are the signs that explain why you've always felt different. Part 3. THEDPSDPATTRNS. The existential intelligence signs. Highly intelligent people don't just think about what to do, they think about what it means to exist. These signs reflect that depth. You've questioned reality itself, not in a psychotic way, in a philosophical way. How do you know you're not dreaming? What is consciousness? Is free will real? These aren't academic questions for you. They're genuine investigations into the nature of existence. You feel a deep sense of meaning and meaninglessness simultaneously. Life feels profoundly significant and utterly absurd at the same time. You experience existential paradox as a constant state rather than a crisis. This isn't depression, it's philosophical awareness. You're aware of your own mortality in ways that affect your daily choices, not morbidly, but consciously. You think about legacy, impact, how you want to spend your finite time. This memento mori awareness shapes your priorities. You struggle with the gap between your internal experience and your external reality. Inside, you contain multitudes, complex thoughts, deep feelings, nuanced understanding. Outside, you're just another person. This gap between internal complexity and external simplicity is profound. You feel connected to something larger than yourself. Whether it's the universe, humanity, nature, or consciousness itself, you sense your participation in something vast. This isn't necessarily spiritual. It's recognizing patterns at the largest scales. The emotional depth signs. Intelligence amplifies emotional experience. These signs reveal that amplification. You feel emotions in layers. You're not just sad. You're sad about being sad, aware of the sadness, analyzing why you're sad, and feeling meta-sadness about overanalyzing. Your emotional experience has recursive depth that others don't report. You empathize to the point of pain. You don't just understand others' suffering intellectually, you feel it viscerally. Watching news about strangers affects you deeply. Your friend's heartbreak becomes your heartbreak. This isn't weakness. It's profound empathetic capacity. You experience beauty intensely. Music moves you to tears. Art stops you in your tracks. Natural beauty feels almost painful in its perfection. You're not being dramatic. You're experiencing aesthetic appreciation at higher intensity. You can identify dozens of emotional gradations. Not just sad, but melancholic, wistful, disappointed, grieving, resigned, dejected. You have precise language for precise feelings. This emotional granularity is a form of intelligence. You need to process emotions intellectually and viscerally. Feeling something isn't enough, you also need to understand it. You might journal, talk through it, research the psychology of it. This integrated emotional cognitive processing is sophisticated. As practical wisdom signs. Intelligence isn't just abstract. It also shows up as practical wisdom, applied understanding. You learn from others' mistakes without experiencing them. You observe patterns in others' lives and extract lessons. You don't need to touch every hot stove personally. You distinguish between correlation and causation instinctively. When others see two things happening together and assume one causes the other, you pause. You look for confounding variables. You resist oversimplification. You know when to trust your intuition versus when to analyze. Some decisions benefit from deliberation. Others need gut instinct. You've learned through experience which is which. You can simplify without losing essential complexity. You make things understandable without being reductive. This balance requires deep understanding of both the content and your audience. You apply knowledge contextually. You know that advice that works in one situation might fail in another. You don't use one-size-fits-all thinking. You adapt principles to circumstances. The self-awareness signs. The deepest intelligence is turned inward. You know your own cognitive biases and still fall for them. You're aware of confirmation bias, but you catch yourself doing it anyway. This meta-awareness of your limitations is more sophisticated than thinking you're above bias. You've identified your patterns across time. You know which situations trigger certain reactions. You recognize when you're repeating old cycles. This temporal self-awareness allows growth. You understand your needs even when they're inconvenient. You know you need solitude, even if others want social time. You know you need intellectual stimulation, even if it seems excessive. You honor your genuine needs. You can observe your ego without being controlled by it. You notice when you're being defensive, when you're seeking validation, when pride is driving behavior. This self-observation creates space for choice. You recognize intelligence without arrogance. You know you think differently. You know you have certain capabilities, but you also know that others have different kinds of intelligence. You don't confuse difference with superiority. Final rehook. We've now covered 99 signs. Cognitive patterns, learning styles, emotional depth, creative thinking, wisdom, self-awareness. But there's one final sign, the most important one. And it might be the only sign that truly matters. This final sign. Sign 100, you doubt your own intelligence. Let me explain why this matters more than any other sign. Highly intelligent people are acutely aware of how much they don't know. Every answer opens 10 new questions. Every area of expertise reveals 10 more areas of ignorance. The more you learn, the more the horizon expands. People with less cognitive ability often feel confident in their knowledge. The Dunning-Kruger effect isn't just about incompetent people overestimating themselves. It's about competent people underestimating themselves. So if you've spent this entire video thinking, but I'm not really that intelligent. If you've been downplaying the signs that resonated. If you've been thinking, lots of people probably experience this. That doubt is evidence. True intelligence creates humility, because awareness reveals complexity, and complexity reveals how little any individual mind can truly comprehend. The wisest person in the room is often the one who feels they know the least. So if you doubt yourself, good. It means you're thinking clearly. If you stayed until the end, there's one thing I want you to know. This wasn't about proving you're intelligent. It was about recognizing yourself. Because intelligence, real intelligence, is often invisible to standardized tests, to traditional education, sometimes even to yourself. But it's there, in how you think when no one's watching, in what you notice that others miss, in the depth of your questions, in your discomfort with simple answers, in your ability to hold complexity without collapsing into oversimplification. You didn't click on this video by accident. Something in the title spoke to a feeling you've carried for a long time. The feeling that you think differently, that you're wired differently, that maybe, just maybe, the problem wasn't that you weren't smart enough. Maybe the problem was that your kind of intelligence didn't fit into the boxes society provided. I want to tell you something. You're not broken. You're not too much or too little. You're not overthinking or unhedang. You're intelligent in ways that our education system wasn't designed to measure, in ways that traditional success markers don't capture, in ways that even you might not fully recognize. And that's okay. Intelligence isn't about being better than others. It's about understanding yourself, using your mind well, contributing your unique way of thinking to a world that needs diverse perspectives. If this video helped you see yourself more clearly, that's enough. I'm curious, which sign surprised you most? Which one felt like it was written specifically about you? Drop a comment. I read them all, and seeing how many people relate to these patterns reminds all of us that we're not alone in thinking differently. If you want more content exploring the psychology of how minds work, especially minds that don't fit standard categories, subscribe. I make videos for people who think deeply. Thank you for spending 2 hours in reflection with me. Stay curious, stay questioning, stay intelligent in whatever form that takes for you.